All right, guys, we're back again here, and I want to look at a vernacular cultural region within the South. So, if most of you've probably heard of Little League World Series, um, but if you didn't play baseball in the South, you might not have known that this existed. I played it in the South, and this is what I played: Dixie Youth. Why was Dixie Youth as an entity, a league, different from Little League? Why did it come into existence? And as you can see here, integration was a real problem in the South. We talked about Jim Crow, mentioning that in the bus and transit terminal in Memphis. We look, and also in the 1960s, you see the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, and we know race riots. We're still having these troubles today, of course. We'll talk more about this in the race and ethnicity chapter. But I did want to at least bring this to your attention. And so I played Dixie Youth Ball all my life, but I did at least want you to know this. I was born in 69, but I was playing probably in the late 70s. And just so you don't think that stayed that way, I want to show you my team. And so this is, hopefully I can get it to go. There we go. This is a picture of my team. So this is me right here. This is my best friend, Danny Baker, but this is Sam Watkins and Jason Carr. So these African-American boys were on my team. So I'm not saying race issues all went away and everything was kumbaya. It wasn't, but I didn't want you to think this was a totally racist organization still to this day. It just began that way. But you've seen other sports movies where integration's happening, basketball, baseball, football, those kinds of things. The Jackie Robinson story I like. Obviously, Chadwick Boseman? I can't remember his name all of a sudden. I just watched Black Panther. Anyway, he just passed away, but of course he played Jackie Robinson in a baseball film with Harrison Ford. You should see it if you want to see how Jackie Robinson integrated into the all-white Major League baseball group from the Negro Leagues. All right, moving forward though, a digital divide. So again, this is a choropleth map that shows you colors stand for numbers, and it usually is with intensity of colors. So it goes from gray, meaning they don't have enough data on it, from the light yellow to the oranges to the red to the purple to show you high intensities of number of people per 100. So very high in Canada, Western Europe, Northern Europe, Australia, New Zealand, as you see here, certainly Japan and North Korea. It's more difficult for a group like or a country like the United States to have it, given how many rural people we have. In the Great Plains, the Midwest, Alaska, for goodness sakes, and even Appalachia. It can be kind of sketchy getting coverage there. It's certainly low across Africa as the continent goes, but certainly in more marginal areas like this is Pakistan, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, and so forth. But they haven't got great economies, so it's hard to get access, but it's coming. They do have cell phone towers, and they are adopting some technologies which are helpful. But looking at it as a concept of globalization, I want you to know that the world has been shrinking for some time. I mean, it was just a turn of a century, last century, into the 19th into the 20th century, when we had undersea cables, steamships, trains, mass rapid transit happening, and you can kind of see from horse-drawn carriages in this depiction, and sailing ships to where you got steam locomotive and ships and at the speed, so they're scaling the map appropriately down for you. Propeller-driven aircraft at 300 and 400 miles per hour, all the way to jet aircraft, and heck, I've actually taught courses from, now remotely, mind you, but as I'm doing this one now, but in the summers when I would travel from Guatemala when we were there, going to internet cafes and communicate with my students from, Italy to South Africa to India. I've taught this class in a lot of places. But that said, globalization doesn't actually make everything all the same. Same culture, same language, same this, that, and the other. It's nuanced. And so the convergence hypothesis of saying it's going more to the same, well, it is close to being true. But then again, to say that you're just exporting American culture through American movies or through Big Macs or whatever it happens to be, this stuff changes. And so in my time in India, I'll just tell you this story real fast. In my time in India, I went for I've been several times, but 3 successive years I went with my students teaching this course. And there were McDonald's and KFC. The first time I ever went, there was only a McDonald's. When I went with my students, there was KFC had penetrated that market, as had Subway, as had Pizza Hut. But the last time I went, well, the first time I went looking at McDonald's menu, look, there's no beef on it. What you need to know is Indians don't eat beef. Well, at least the religious ones don't. So when you're looking at their menu items, this Maharaja Mac, this is a chicken patty. This paneer passion, this is a cheese, a thick cheese. This aloo tikki is spicy potato. So these are very good sandwiches. I'm telling you, I've eaten them. I like them. But they're not like the McDonald's you think. And it's different from Japan and Canada to wherever. Clam chowder here to soy sauce there. It's just different. By the time, though, the last time I went to India with my students, I saw that Domino's had penetrated, and they were marketing the fact that they had real pork sausage. Most Hindus don't eat pork either, but there's lots of Muslims in India too, and pork is absolutely verboten for them. That's a taboo food, as we talked about from the bugs and the cuy, the guinea pigs that you saw earlier, and the dogs. Well, theirs is not to eat beef or pork. So this menu looks different in different places, but I said that convergence hypothesis does have some merit. Let's, though, look at the backlash against globalization, or as some groups call it, westernization, or as Iran calls it, and other countries that don't like us very much, Americanization. So there's those 3 words mean the same thing, but it has more of a in-your-face kind of concept here. So what, as you read about in your textbook of having national brands that come to challenge, say, chicken, KFC in China, look at what Iranian government officials decided to do, moving away from the Barbie and Ken dolls to the Dara and Sarah dolls. And they're much more covered, conservative, and wearing traditional clothing of Iran and not your West Coast stuff that you see here with Ken and Barbie. This also came out not that long ago, Mecca Cola. Think about what they've done with this. Now, this is in Saudi Arabia. They have put God ordained on that can. Mecca is the holiest city of Islam. And by putting Mecca on the cola can to sell it, you're trying to sell them basically Coca-Cola, but that's a Western corrupting influence. This one is God approved. You're stamping it. Okay? That's what cultural nationalism is about. And don't think that's just them doing it. Look around here in Gallatin and in Sumner County, Hendersonville, and look at Alpha and Omega. You've got roofing services that use sometimes coded or not even coded language to say, hey, we're Christian. There's several of them around. I'm going blank on that now, but pay attention to the naming of these companies that say, look, we are Christian and we're going to treat you fair. You're going to get the right price. We're not going to gouge you. We're going to do a good job. They're speaking a religious language. So that's not much difference here than, the consumer nationalism of Arab Islamic peoples rejecting westernization and adopting more things from their own bolt of cloth, if you will. Okay. All right, let's look at a couple more things here. Indigenous technical knowledge. What you see here, just really quick, the comparison is that the correlation is very high for both indigenous peoples' knowledge and biological diversity. Thus, using the people in that area to understand the ecosystems would be better than to come in wholesale change. We've seen a lot of wholesale change on this island right here, though, and that is Borneo, and they have cut down so much of the rainforest and are using it for palm oil plantations. But we see this in many other places. The problem is, if you ask me with this, is the indigenous people know the information, but we don't value them because they're not us, thus we don't value their information. I mean, it's kind of like saying if the Spanish, when they took over Latin America, shouldn't they have adopted that Mayan calendar? It was so good, it lasted for nearly 4,000 years. It's very accurate. No, we'll keep our old Julian calendar that doesn't work well at all. Dominant cultures don't typically want to adopt the stuff from the one they just conquered. Not to say that it can't happen. Mongols conquered China, but they adopted Chinese ways, is one example I can think of. But what I'm driving at here is if we valued those people, their languages too, and their cultures, we would understand the ecosystem better. And this might help all of us because where do we derive a lot of our pharmaceuticals from? These diverse places like rainforests and where we don't understand all of the local flora and fauna. So driving at the point of trying to say that their knowledge is just as valuable whether we value it or not. And I wish we did more. We are getting better at it, though, so you should feel better about that. But also look at it, excuse me, also look at it from a male-female standpoint. From the Judeo-Christian, here's the Bible, God gave earth to the people to do whatever with, but it's still very patriarchal, right? I mean, we know of a few female names in the Bible, but it's a male-dominated book and it's a male-dominated religion. Okay, so that means then we're going to value the male opinions over these things more than the female. But we're starting to see that change. We're starting to see that feminism, ecofeminism is coming around. I'd mentioned Wangari Maathai in a previous lecture, but looking at gendered knowledge and gendered environmental rights and gendered environmental politics, we see that women are the foundations of these communities. You know, the girls go out every day. They may have to walk in Africa miles to get water. That takes away from their education. But I want to show you this. Now, this is Greg Mortensen. I still think he has done a great job, although his book, 3 Cups of Tea, did contain lies, outright fabrications. Still, one of the best quote that I got out of that book, and it is about education. This guy's building schools. He gets lost in Pakistan, mountain climbing. He gets saved, promises to build him a school, and this changes his life. Still read this book, even though there are falsehoods in it, but know that they were building schools for all the children, but specifically for the females. And look, if you want to change a culture, empower the women, improve basic hygiene and health care, fight high rates of infant mortality, that is, you educate the girls. And I will make this point again in the chapter over population, chapter 3, when you hear it. Okay, so let's save that. I'll come back and make my last lecture beginning with folk house type. So I'll stop here and I'll see you in the last lecture. Bye-bye.